Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome to episode 9 of the Norwich City Save. We've got a bit of a different episode for you because we've reached the end of our first season in charge at Carrow Road, and it's been a very successful one. We've gotten promoted as champions, as you saw in the previous episode. We've finished off by playing the last few games. We're going to go through the season review. We're going to have a look at the final. So you've just seen the goals from the final 4 games of the season, starting off against then third place Watford. And I say then because if you look at where Watford finished, Watford actually ended up in 5th place in the Championship. And that is because of some absolutely appalling form in the final games of the season. Beginning, it has to be said, midway through February, their form started to dip off with draws against Blackburn and Bournemouth. They picked up a 4-0 victory against Wickham, but after that failed to register a single victory, only picking up 2 points in the grand scheme of things, with losses to Forest, Rotherham, Birmingham, Sheffield Wednesday. In fact, not Sheffield Wednesday, because that was the one they drew. Middlesbrough, Reading, Luton, ourselves, Millwall, Brentford, and finally to Swansea. They had a torrid final part of the season and actually stood to find themselves knocked out of the playoffs altogether. We then moved on to QPR, who we beat 3-1. Again, a really pleasing performance. By this time, the confidence in the side was just flowing, and we were playing some really neat one-touch passing football that just meant we blew them away. And we continued that against Reading at home, where we won 3-1. And we finished the season away to Barnsley, who we beat 3-0, a fairly comprehensive victory. Again, playing some very neat stuff. Barnsley really didn't get into the game, really didn't show anything, and offered us very little in terms of resistance. We ended the league with 117 points in 46 matches. We lost just the once, and that was to Watford earlier on in the season, who we lost 1-0 to. We had 9 draws and 36 wins. And I had to say, there is some complaint that Football Manager this year is a bit too easy, and I think when you play with certain teams in certain leagues, that complaint can be justified. There is absolutely ways to make this game harder. Play as far more difficult teams, for example. It will certainly be a lot easier playing as Norwich than playing as Wycombe in the Championship. But we have here a very good squad, and that showed in the final league table, winning so many times and losing just that once. Well, let's go through the season review, shall we? This is a new feature for Football Manager and something I'm really very, very keen on. This is only the second one that I've actually come across, because my Manchester City one, we only played this one season in that particular save, and so as a result of which I've only seen this once before, so I'm quite keen to get into this and look at this in a bit more detail. But you can see, and I like this already, that we finished the season with a trophy under our name. The Sky Bet Championship is ours, coming top so comfortably. The new arrivals, so you can see in grand scheme of things, Norwich signed a host of new players, most of these not being mine, of course. So if you look at who it is we signed Babur Rahman, we signed Roger Vilca, we signed Carlos Elena. It was obviously the previous management that brought in Kieran Dowell, that brought in Ben Gibson, that brought in Plymouth Pacheta, brought in Jakob Sorensen, Sebastian Soto, Daniel Sinani, Matthew Dennis and Barney Mumba. And those bottom four I'm not going to refer to any further because they are not players who played for us. They're either out on loan or playing in the youth team. But obviously our key new signing has been Kieran Dowell. 8 goals and 18 assists in 34 starts and 9 substitute appearances, an average rating of 7.47. He has been an absolute star for us. And you look at his rating, he's shot up to 3.5 stars with a 3.5 star potential ability. This guy has got the capabilities of playing in the Premier League, and he may very well be my starting Premier League player for next season. And then after that, Babur Rahman, my attacking fullback. So I brought Babur Rahman in to be an alternative to Xavi Quintia, and I must admit, when I signed him, I thought he would be a good signing, but I didn't expect him to perhaps play the lion's share of games. I thought, if I'm quite honest with you, he would probably lose out to Xavi Quintia in the long run, because Quintia had a little bit more about him that I thought would be able to set him just very slightly apart. And if you have a look at the comparison between the two, you'll see exactly what I mean as soon as I can find him. Where is he? Quintia. So Quintia is the guy in blue, and you can see that he and Rahman are almost identical, but with Quintia being just 24 to Babur Rahman's 26, and Quintia having the potential to be signed permanently, I did expect Quintia to be the person that I ended up favouring, with the hopes that I could then get him into the team at the end and have him be the left back in the Premier League. He may still be that person, because if you look at him, his wage is only 9.75k a week that we're paying at the very least, and we can pick him up, I think, for a relatively reasonable price. Let's just double check. Yeah, we have an optional future fee of 2.7 million. So if I'm able to take advantage of that and bring him in to be the left back who plays next year, that may be something I look to do. And then you have the remainder. Ben Gibson, an average rating of 7. He played 45 times, having 2 assists to his name. Roger Vilca, he's got a little star next to his name. I wonder what that means. Signing of the season. Well, that's interesting. I would certainly not have suggested he's the signing of the season. I would have given that to Kieran Dowell. But actually, look at that. The board give him an F due to the fact that the player has given a wage that's too high for his place in the squad. And they appear to be very unhappy with that. I really dispute that. I mean, he is on 19.75k a week. That's because he triggered a couple of clauses in his contract due to the number of times he played. But he got 11 assists and 4 goals, and really picked up his performances in the last half of the season. So I think actually he was a good signing, and I would certainly not agree with the board's rating of F, because although he has been expensive, he has produced the goods on the pitch. And then you have Placheta, who has not really played regularly. He started 12 times and featured from the bench 15 times, but has got 7 goals to his name and 1 assist. He has been a fairly decent attacking winger and proven his capabilities as such. So I'm quite pleased with the contribution he made to the team, and the board have given him a C-. Of interest, Ben Gibson got a B-, Babur Rahman got C+, and Kieran Dowell got C+. So hard to please board this. Our January signing, though, Carlos Elena, got a B+ from the board, and that's because of the lower wage contribution that would normally be expected for a player of his ability. And even though he had some quibbles as to how I was playing him, and even though Ronald Koeman himself, the Barcelona manager, had some quibbles as to how I was playing him, he did very well. He scored 3 times, he created 2 assists with a 6.94 average rating, with 18 assists and 1 from the bench. I'm in 2 minds as to whether I try to sign him next season. We're just going to have to see. Jakob Sorensen was the last of the new signings, transferred in from Sweden, and he did very, very steady for me. He was very steady in his performances, steady in his dependability. I, again, think he's going to be somebody that's kept around for the Premier League squad. He can be a very useful player because he can play in so many different positions. And at 23 years of age, he's got the capability there of getting better. My coaches suggest he could be a 3.5-star player, currently 2.5-star. So hopefully next season he may pick up with the better opposition that he's going to be playing against. And maybe we will see the best of Jakob Sorensen to come in future seasons. So the results: we won promotion with a final position of first in the table. Average home attendance of 24,792, which is 90% of the ground's total attendance capabilities. And they gave us a B- for the season. Why a B-? Goodness knows. What do you have to do to get a B or an A? I suppose do well in the Premier League. We will see next season. Teemu Pukki was the competition top scorer, not just the top scorer at the championship level. He got 32 goals in the grand scheme of things. He really was absolutely on fire for us, and pretty much fired us to promotion throughout the season. Adam Eder was probably the next best striker after him, and given that Hugo was sold fairly early on to Newcastle, it's really hardly a surprise. The FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, though, we did enough to justify the board's expectations. We reached the 4th round in the FA Cup, going out, I think, to Sheffield United, obviously a Premier League club. And in the Carabao Cup, we went on quite a run, if I remember rightly. We reached the quarter-final, that's right, losing 1-0 to Arsenal, taking out a couple of Premier League scalps along the way. So, yeah, Carabao Cup was perhaps a highlight. We were expected to reach the 3rd round. We reached the quarter-final, beating AFC Wimbledon, Wigan, Tottenham, Burnley, and then losing to Arsenal. Our moments to remember. So we beat Preston 5-0. That was our biggest win. Our match to remember was 4-0 against Premier League Burnley. And goal of the season was Todd Cantwell against Blackburn Rovers. So we are we able to see that? No, not that one. Must be this one. Here we go. Cantwell picking the ball up. Yes, this was definitely the goal of the season. Yes, what a goal that was. Running from inside our half to scoring that goal from outside of the penalty area. Yes, good pick for goal of the season, that one. Financially speaking, we seem to have done okay. Sponsorship, we had a fairly large amount. We've sold plenty of merchandise. Competition prize money, we got a fairly large amount as well. It doesn't look like we had any issues in the end of the day with financial fair play as well. So fingers crossed we did okay financially. And our best 11, Krul in goal, Max Aarons at right back, Babur Rahman at left back, Gibson and Zimmerman in the middle, Jakob Sorensen at defensive midfield, Oliver Skipp and Carlos Elena in the middle of midfield, Emi Buendia, Todd Cantwell and Timu Pukki obviously up front. And our accolades, it looks like we've done a fair old amount of winning certain accolades. We won the Sky Bet Championship Manager of the Month for October, January, February and March. And it seems there's one more as well, and April. So we won it 4 times on the trot, January, February, March and April. So that's pretty good. And our club awards are Fans Player of the Season, rightfully so, Kieran Dow, Young Player of the Season, Kieran Dow, Roger Vilka, Signing of the Season, Goal of the Season, Todd Cantwell, Top Goal Scorer, Pukki, Most Assists, Dowell, Most Player of the Match Awards, Babur Rahman. That's interesting, with 6, and the highest average rating, 7.5 for Kieran Dow. And our record breakers, our most overall goals for a player in a season goes to Timu Pukki. Most league goals of a player in a season goes to Timu Pukki, which again is interesting because it must mean that he scored more this time than he did in real life 2 seasons ago when Norwich were promoted. Most goals by a player in a league match, 3. Most clean sheets, Tim Krul. Most player of the match awards in a season. Worst discipline, 11 yellow cards for Ollie Skipp. Youngest player, Josh Martin. Oldest goal scorer, Timu Pukki. Competition awards haven't yet been given out by the look of it. And there we are, history in the making. It was a superb season for the Canaries, who exceeded expectations throughout the campaign and claimed a deserved title. Marcus Greaves, Football Whispers. So we go now into a championship campaign where there's going to be a lot of changes over the summer. And I say that because we have relied quite heavily on 5 loanees. Now, Ben Gibson, he had a obligated purchase clause in his contract, which meant that on promotion to the Premier League, we have had to purchase him for £8 million. Xavi Quintero, I've mentioned already, he has an optional future fee clause, which might mean we take advantage of that and see if we can bring him in. My one concern about that is down to, and let's see if anybody will give us a report on it, but my one concern about that is down to whether or not he can be signed because of the, and if that's the case, I'm going to have to sign 2 new left backs. Babur Rahman obviously will go back to Chelsea, and his rather excessive wage, I think he's on over 80 grand in total. Yeah, he's at 88 grand a week from Chelsea, which we were paying 62 grand. I don't know whether we can justify continuing to pay that. So we're going to need at least 2 left backs. I also think we're going to need a new centre back. At the minute, we've got Rocky Bullshiri, Christoph Zimmerman, Ben Gibson, and Grant Hanley as our 4 at the back. Christoph Zimmerman and Ben Gibson, yes, I'm quite confident they'd be able to take the step up to the Premier League. I'm not so sure about Grant Hanley, and I'm not so sure about Rocky Bullshiri. Grant Hanley, of course, is a fairly influential player in terms of the player dynamics, so he will likely be playing, we would likely be kept here solely as backup and somebody as a dressing room leader. But it may very well be that I'll start considering Rocky Bullshiri as perhaps just a utility player, perhaps keeping him around as backup to Max Aarons, and as a result of which open up a slot for a 4th central defender to come in, somebody perhaps who can jump into the team straight away and add a lot of quality. So that there is 2 left backs and 1 central defender. We're going to need a new goalkeeper. Michael McGovern is out of contract at the end of this year. Tim Krul is now 33 and will be on the decline. A nice thing about Tim Krul is that he actually did make the Dutch national squad. You can see there he replaced, I think, the injured Jesper Silensen is his name, Kasper Silensen, one of the 2. He replaced him because he suffered quite a serious injury, and Tim Krul has acted since then as backup to Jerome Zoet. We're going to need as well a defensive midfielder. We've only got the 1 in Jakob Sorensen. We're going to need a strong defensive midfielder to go into the Premier League with, so we're going to need a first choice defensive midfielder. We're going to be losing Alex Tettey, who was very unhappy with me at not basically not allowing him to play more games. He is out of contract at the end of the year, and I've already told him he can go. We're going to need a replacement for Ollie Skip. He played so well in centre of midfield and also stepping back into defensive midfield. I may try to look to get him back on loan. He's just not going to be joining us permanently because Tottenham just aren't interested in letting him go. Lucas Rupp and Kenny McLean, 2 players I think I'm going to try to sell. Emi Buendia, he has a lot of interest from very big teams, and I have, in order to turn down an offer we got for him in January, I had to tell him that we would sell him for a certain price. So if somebody comes up with that certain price, it may very well be that he will be leaving us, which would be a massive blow. Carlos Elena, you can see I've already put the offer in, but he's not very happy with us here. Roger Velka, I've got to think carefully about what I want to do with Roger. He has not developed quite the way I would like, but he has put in some very impressive performances. 4 goals, 11 assists in the 26 starts and 11 substitute appearances is not a bad return at all. Kieran Dowell, I've already talked about. Todd Cantwell, I think, is good enough to play on the left, albeit maybe in competition with somebody else. Placheta, I'm going to have to think very carefully about whether he's good enough to step up to the Premier League. Adam Eder, I'd like to send Adam Eder out on loan. He's done quite well. You can see he's developed very well. It may be necessary to get him out on loan to a very decent championship level club, leaving us with just the one striker, Timu Pukki. So we're going to need at least 2 strikers as well. So I see that as 2 strikers, as possibly a left winger, as possibly at least 2 central midfielders, a defensive midfielder, 2 left backs, centre back, and a goalkeeper. So we need a grand total of 10 players. It's going to be a really busy summer. But thank you so much for joining me so far. It's been a good start to this series. I've enjoyed doing this. I've enjoyed putting the videos together for you. I hope you've enjoyed it too. And if you have, you can show your appreciation by leaving a comment, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing the videos as far and wide as you feel able to. I'd be really grateful if you're able to do any of those things. And we will see you next week for a transfer special where we will discuss all the incomings and outgoings. Thank you very much. Take care.